Internet! Hello! Welcome to another episode of Koi Cubed. I cannot believe it has been a week, and I cannot believe it has only been a week. Neither of those things seem actually possible simultaneously. What an insane week it has been. I hope you're doing well. It is quite the time in quarantine. I am shocked at every bit of news I see, but I have been reading way too much news. I have been diving way too deep into the world of the outside world, and I like pop culture. I like stories. I like all that. So I'm gonna try to make this little Koi Cubed safe haven a place for us all to have some escapism. I'm gonna try to stick with positivity as I do, and I'm definitely gonna try to lean into the pop culture side of things. Occasionally news about the world will pop up because it affects everything else, but I really, really want to find the positive again because, man, it has been a crazy week, and I've been dealing with the throes of being an extrovert in trapped isolation. Thank you, Brian. My hair is quarantine-tastic. I am very, very much considering a mohawk because we're going to be in this for a very long time, and I figure while in quarantine, that's the time to shave your head into a mohawk. So that might be happening. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everyone's staying indoors. I hope everyone is social distancing so this can be over as soon as possible. In the real world news, which is very brief, because I don't want to get into it, we are basically going into another 30 days of this, minimum. So we are here for April, and we're going to see how long that shakes out. In that time, I've got some cool content ideas to bring to you guys, but first, let's bring you the news. This week, today in fact, it was announced that Spider-Man 3 production is officially on hold. I'm not that surprised. Obviously, this is a giant movie, so it's a big announcement, but it was kind of inevitable. They were scheduled to shoot in June, I believe, and I don't think that's any way going to happen at any point. So we're at the point where we're going to see movies that are going to be 2021 and 2022 affected because things that were going into production now are not going to be able to happen. And I also think we're going to be in a tricky time with distribution of TV shows, with streaming, with all of those things. It's going to be very intense going forward. Now, Spider-Man 3 is a giant production for a bunch of reasons. It affects Sony's slate, which we're going to get into in a minute. It affects Marvel's slate, all of Phase 4, which we're going to get into in a minute. And it's a very, very, very post-production heavy film. So a delay in this kind of film is huge because they can't edit or work on CGI or do any of the post-production stuff without anything in the can. I think the benefit a lot of these movies are getting from delaying their release is they get to work on post-production. They get to enhance the CGI because you can work on special effects at home. That's how that's done. So it's going to be a very different thing. I'm also really curious about how this shapes Phase 4 because Black Widow's obviously been delayed. It was supposed to be out very soon. I think the Eternals might be able to come out on time because Black Widow is a prequel. It's a movie set in the 90s, so that's going to be a different thing. But it is going to be affecting all of these movies going forward. Spider-Man 3 getting delayed, its production being delayed is a big deal. So I'm curious how this all shakes out. That was officially announced today. I also want to make sure I thank you for the super chat from Mukbang Reviews. I thank you for watching the broadcast that I am broadcasting. Much obliged. Thank you very much. So that is the newest bit of news from the MCU, and I'm very curious how that shakes up everything going forward because, you know, Kevin Feige's got his 10-year plan. It's not like regular movies. These are all things that are very, very tied to the next thing. It's one big TV show. These are serialized content. It's all a giant system. So if you knock over one domino, it affects everything else. I think that Black Widow might be the exception, and luckily for them, because Kevin Feige's a soothsayer, we're in a position where so far not affected, but we'll see how these movies go going forward. Sony, on the other hand, has announced that they have moved virtually their entire slate for the year. As of now, everything except Venom is moved. Venom is still due to come out in October as it was planned, and that's the only one of the big tentpole releases that seems to be holding on to its ground. Morbius was officially delayed, which I think is going to be great because it gives that whole team an opportunity to play with CGI and all those things. I'm also, I'm one of the people that's excited for Morbius because I really liked Venom. I think doing a Monster of the Week Spider-Man universe is a fun alternate take. I don't want everything to feel like the MCU, so I'm personally very excited for these Monster of the Week movies. Even though I'm not much of a horror guy, I'm still very excited for this take on it. There's a lot of horror elements in these characters, and leading up to the Sinister Six through the villains is a really cool way to enhance the Spider-Man world. If Spider-Man's the villain because he's wronged all these criminals, that's great. I would love to watch a Michael Keaton and Scorpion scene in prison leading to meeting up with Morbius, leading to Venom being involved, leading to Black Cat. Like, that all sounds really exciting to me. We know that Spider-Man's involved in this universe now. We've seen shots in the Morbius trailer of Spider-Man. Confusing shots because they're from a video game. But also, there's a rumor of... I tied that to go into the paparazzi stuff because I think it ruins society and movies. But there's rumors of Venom, graffiti on the Morbius set. So, Venom being referenced directly, Vulture being referenced in the trailer, all of that's really exciting because that means we have this cool shared universe. I'd rather have multiple shared universes with Spider-Man jumping in and out than I'd just stuck in the MCU. I'd also rather everything be able to operate independently. I like how different Venom felt. I like that DC is doing Elseworlds. I like that we get these different flavors. I love the MCU, obviously, but I don't want everything to feel the same. So, I'm really excited that Morbius gets more time in post. I'm really excited that we get to see it, in theaters down the line. And what else do we got over at Sony? Sony has moved Greyhound from its June 12th date to a TBD date, so Greyhound is just generally moved. Fatherhood went from this upcoming January, they moved it up a little to an October release date. Peter Rabbit 2 The Runaway has moved from August to January. I love the first Peter Rabbit. That has moved from August to January. We'll see how that shakes out. Ghostbusters Afterlife, a giant release from Sony, has moved from a July 10th release date, a huge release date, a tentpole release date, because it's Ghostbusters. It's moving from July 10th to March 5th. That's an interesting switch because it went from a summer movie to that opening spring slot. That's that almost 300. When Zack Snyder's 300 came out 15 years ago, that really changed that March date. That March date became a big heavy hitter. So it's moving from a big release date of the summer to a big release date of the spring. Curious how that's going to affect its numbers. But obviously it can't come out in July because we don't know where the world's going to be. Morbius I talked about. It's moving from a July 31st release date, which is also a solid release date, to another interesting spring release date. It now comes out on March 19th, 2021. So a year from last week. A year from last week, we're getting Morbius. Holy crap. We also have got Uncharted, the most cursed movie in a long time, man. Uncharted is like the New Mutants of video games. Uncharted is having that time. It has moved from this somehow was supposed to come out in March 2021, having not shot yet, to October 2021. So that's going to be some trickiness. And then there's an untitled Sony Marvel film that was slated to come out October 2021, which I think is probably Black Cat. Or it could be Sinister Six, but I doubt it. But it's going to be one of those big Spider-Man movies that got moved from October 2021 to ? Which to me seems like Spider-Man's in it, and that's why they're having to move it around because Spider-Man's in it. So without Tom Holland having shot the other things, they don't know what his schedule's going to be. They don't know what all those things are going to be. So I'm very, very curious. I don't know. We'll see. This is all going to be really big. I also think we're going to be in quarantine through probably June, July, and therefore I think movies are going to be August, September. I don't think award season is going to be what it usually is. I don't think we're going to have a lot of... It's going to be a while, and I'm also afraid that once we open up quarantine and people go back into the world, there's going to be a resurgence. We're going to have to lock in again. So I don't know when it would make sense for movie theaters to open back up. So it's going to be time will tell situation on all of that. I see in the live chat someone saying why The Last Man is more cursed. Why The Last Man, going through showrunners and actors and everything else, is definitely a hell of a thing. I'm rereading Why The Last Man, and it's great, and I would love to see it. It deserves a long-form adaptation. It deserves... I definitely think a TV show suits its sensibilities, but man, what a journey that thing has gone on to get to the screen. I do not envy that team, but anything Brian K. Vaughan does, I am 100% there for, so I totally agree with you there. But man, the Sony slate, we're going to hear announcements from Universal, I'm sure, soon. Universal was the first big studio that moved everything to streaming first. They're doing a lot of their releases coming out on streaming sooner. They're shortening their theatrical windows. I'm curious if they just start dumping their other movies onto streaming sooner than they were originally planning. VOD seems to be going very well. I was really happy to see how many people were watching Birds of Prey. I think the Birds of Prey experience... I've thought about Birds of Prey more... Like, Birds of Prey and The Gentleman are the two movies this year, 2020, which was only 2.5 months of movies that I've thought about most. I've thought about Birds of Prey and The Gentleman a lot, so I'm really glad people are finally getting a chance to check out Birds of Prey, because I think it deserves at least somewhat of a push. So yeah, it's a tricky time for movie theaters, tricky time for entertainment, but I do love the amount of people that are actively diving into entertainment. Speaking of which, this week it was announced that a bunch of Hollywood heavy hitters are teaming up to make basically a fund for out-of-work crew, out-of-work creatives, out-of-work movie folk. Steven Spielberg and a bunch of other people are all contributing $500,000 each and throwing money into a big pot to help out people. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think that's an amazing way to contribute and to support the arts for people that are, in the arts. So I think that's a really rad thing they're doing. I'm curious how long this goes on and what other things are going to come to play. My cat is here. Spidey, say hello. These are Spidey ears. Hold on. There we go. Now Spidey is part of the stream. Say hello, Spidey. So yeah, I think that fund is really cool. We also had confirmation that basically Mark Zuckerberg is contributing $100 million to another bunch of coronavirus funds. And I keep seeing like a lot of heightened negativity on Twitter about that. And it's always baffling to me. A bunch of people have been like, I'm not Team Zuckerberg. I think Facebook actively destroyed the career that I was building because YouTube had to change its monetization, and like them lying about Facebook numbers completely screwed over internet journalism. So I'm not pro Facebook, not pro Zuckerberg in any way. But when you contribute $100 million, I have to tip my hat to that. So the idea that we're living in a time where people are saying, yeah, but his overall financial, that's only like $30 to the average person. And I don't see many people contributing $30. So I just feel like the hypocrisy is real with people when they're saying like, yeah, but he should do more. I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing? But that's its own conversation. That's its own thing. Not for this channel. So I think it's really cool that people are trying to help the arts. I think it's really cool that a lot of people with money are actively putting their money where their mouth is and doing all of that. Speaking of Twitter and arguing, good news that came out of this quarantine is a lot of comic creators are stuck home. A lot of them have more time than they like to have, and a lot of them are talking about Marvel versus DC. Now, I didn't think this would ever happen. I thought it was a complete and total pipe dream. I thought it was unrealistic, but they all kind of bring up a good point. How cool would it be if we came out of this quarantine to basically an event comic that was so big that it brought those two giant powerhouse distributors together? What if the two biggest publishers in comics teamed up and they basically made the biggest event book we've had in years? Amalgam was great. I love the Amalgam universe. I would love to see current creators teaming up on a giant crossover book. That'd be a great way if they made it like print exclusive and then made it digital. That way you have incentive to go to the comic store if you have incentive to buy physical comics. I think that's a great opportunity for the comic stores to kind of bounce back through that. So I'm really hoping now that Marvel DC does happen. It was, of course, Gail Simone shepherding this madness. She is the queen of Twitter and comics. I am always impressed at the giant movements she gets to create with her Twitter, so I'm really hoping Marvel DC would happen. I'd love, like, Donny Cates said he wanted to write Thor and Venom. It was like 3 different team-ups. I can't remember off the top of my head. My internet's not working. Guys, the internet curse is real in my place. I had to start another stream because I tried one on Wi-Fi, and now I'm using my regular data LTE, and now my computer's crashing because it's on the Wi-Fi. I'm having a whole time with internet, so I apologize for any little indiscrepancies because it keeps crashing. But off the top of my head, from memory, I do enjoy the conversations that are happening on Twitter. I think it's a really good opportunity to see what happens. This week, DC basically came out and said they're going to be doing a completely different distribution strategy, or looking at different distribution strategies, and Diamond being the only distributor is inherently a negative, because once Diamond backs out of something, then comics can't move forward. I've always thought that was kind of a tricky line we walked. So I think it's a really cool precedent that DC is saying, like, hey, we're going to look at other options. DC obviously does ship books. They're shipping to bookstores. Other places are able to get their comics. So I think that them having the opportunity to find other ways to get comics to us can only help us. So I'm very hopeful that DC's distribution does find its source. This Wednesday, tomorrow, is the first comic day without new comics, which is insane to me. So we're going to be living in a time where new comics aren't coming out, comic stores are closed. This is all unprecedented. I definitely do want to talk about other books you can read, things you want to dive into, all of those things. And basically, I think we should do. A lot of people are saying new to you. I think new to you comic book day is a really cool concept. So I think that's going to be what we do for the foreseeable. This week, I recommend Why the Last Man, because we're living in these times, and I think a post-apocalyptic book is very appropriate right now. I suggest issues 1 through 10 to dive in, see if you like it. They're available on Comixology's Borrow system. You can borrow them for free. If you're a Comixology member, you can borrow Why the Last Man 1 through 10. It's 2 volumes, so 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10. I just reread them. I'm reading the rest of the series. It's a damn good time. I would check that out. I would also recommend what I'm doing right now is reading Animal Man again. Animal Man from Grant Morrison is one of the most, I feel like, underappreciated comics of all time. It's up there with Watchmen for me. It's up there with all of these reputable giant titans of books, but Animal Man is one of the best graphic novels of all time. So I would say Animal Man 1 through 26 would be my second recommendation for the week of comics, because holy crap is that book good, and I think it's very, very slept on. I think that now's the time to go back and read stuff you've never touched on. Now's the time to do all those things, because we got the time, and it's a real weird time. Speaking of Community, I have finally watched Community. Season 1 of Community is so impossibly good. I tweeted this out, and it started this whole thing. I think it's the antithesis of Big Bang Theory. I've always thought Big Bang Theory was attempting to appease nerds while kind of jabbing at them. It was clearly written by people that aren't actually that way. It always felt like it was making fun of in a really like underhanded way. I always thought Big Bang was really disrespectful, and I never liked how popular it was. Community is the opposite. Community is written by nerds. Nerds are playing nerds, but it's for the masses. They're giving the masses insight into why nerds are awesome. We're living in a time 10 years later that nerds are running the world. It's incredible, like the billion-dollar industry we're in. But it's a new thing relatively. So I think Community is the opposite of Big Bang Theory. I love that it represents an achievement in nerd culture that feels like it's from within. It's from the heart. It's actually going to the right audience. So I've been really, really enjoying the entire Community experience. The meta-awareness of jokes is incredible. I think that what they're able to do with the style of humor is insane. I love that they cast Donald Glover, and he was effectively a day player. Like, he was not a big character on the show, and then they realized they had Donald Glover on set, and they were like, well, there we go. Like, you see him become Donald Glover throughout just the first season. I only just finished season 1. It's been so cool to see Donald Glover just, like, actualize. Because by the end of the season, he's definitely a core lead, and him and Abed are absolutely an incredible duo. I can't believe I'm 10 years late to the show. Traditionally, I'm 10 years late to shows, but this one feels like it was made for me, and I am loving it. The cookie metaphor, the giant cookie metaphor at the end of the season finale is one of my favorite meta jokes, and it was right in my face, and I didn't see it, and it was such a solid landing. The paintball episode lived up to all the expectations. Everyone said, let me know when you get to the paintball episode. Directed by Justin Lin. It is... I love that it just pops up in the live chat, and I didn't even see it until after I said it. I love that it directed by Justin Lin. It's an action movie. It is a full-budget action movie that just happens to be on a TV show and be half an hour. The, like, choreography of the stunts is incredible. The tension is powerful. The action dynamics with the comedy totally work for the show. The paintball episode is cinema. It just happened to be on a small screen. It is so good. I am so impressed with this show, top to bottom. I can't get over how good it is. I'm going to start season 2 probably tomorrow, and I'll keep updating you guys week to week as I'm watching, because that's something I'm trying to fill my time with, because man, oh man, is it weird times. But it is so good. Oh, I must watch the bloopers for the first season. I will totally do that between seasons. I will watch the bloopers. Thank you very much, Lone Wolf Pack. Always a pleasure. I appreciate you. And yes, the new Childish Gambino album is insane. I actually caught that like 2 hours it was online that he released it 2 weeks ago, and I was so happy, and then it was gone, and I was so upset. Now it's on Spotify. It's a different sound altogether. Like, he's combining all of his elements throughout all of his albums and shaping one new sound, and it's madness. I really dig this album. I miss the sound of old Childish, but I understand the maturity that comes with this new sound. So there's a part of me that's always going to love Camp, and it's always going to love Cul-de-sac and Freaks and Geeks and that sound. But I get, as he's evolved, that, you know, Redbone and This Is America and this new album, Time, like, there's so many different elements to it that I get it. I saw him live about a year ago now. His last concert before he went and did a couple more stadium stuff. And he didn't play a lot of the old stuff because his sound, he's a different person now. So he doesn't identify with it as much, and it's interesting. So yeah, big fan of the new album. Big fan of Donald Glover on the show. Big fan of All That Glory. Really excited to see how it shakes out. Now, I also am really curious what you guys are doing during quarantine. So for me, I'm asking if you can throw something in the comments about what you're doing, what hobbies you picked up, what habits you've picked up, what's helping you stay sane, because there has been an entire new world. We're not used to being inside this much, so I'm really curious what you guys are doing, because I want to try to adapt some of those things. I'm going to learn to jump rope. I've never jump roped, and it's really good cardio, and I'm going to try to get more flexible. I can only touch just below my knees. I can't even touch my ankles, much less my toes. My flexibility is absolute garbage. So, jump rope, flexibility, those are my two goals for this chunk of quarantine. I want to know what you guys are doing, what your goals are, what your dreams are for this madness, because frankly, who knows how long it's going to be, and I'm really hoping we can get through all this together. What else happened in the news? My computer, I had a whole document drafted, and I emailed it to myself because I'm on my phone because my Wi-Fi crashed, and now I can't get that document. I'm having a time, you guys. In fact, I'm going to do the least professional thing, and I'm going to see if I can open that document and come right going forward as planned, and I don't know if that's smart. I don't know if San Diego Comic-Con is going to happen in July. They're going to announce it in June. Everything's going forward as planned, but I really don't know what that's going to look like. And that's also another giant dent in comic books. To me, it felt like Comic-Con 50 this last year was swinging back towards comics. We're shifting back a little away from the studio system. Obviously, movies and all that are still welcome, and that genre culture is very important. But comic books are vital. So, I'm hoping maybe we unplug it and plug it back in. We take the year off, we go back, we restructure what Comic-Con is. I'm scared of what that kind of crowd looks like in July with everything being so uncertain, but we'll have to see. I do think San Diego Comic-Con is vital to the comic book industry, but I don't know. Safety is obviously more important, so we'll see. I'll update you guys as we hear anything, but I do think it's interesting they haven't canceled it yet. Speaking of things you can do with your time that are lovely and free if you have Amazon Prime, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is free on Amazon Prime, and Kevin Smith just made an audio commentary on YouTube that you can listen to alongside it for free. A full director's commentary, which frankly is like film school. Take a film school class from Kevin Smith. Check out Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. There's a scene with Ben Affleck that is one of the most heartfelt things I saw last year. It is an incredible powerhouse performance, up there with his performance in The Way Back, to be honest. And it ties up all of the View Askew love. And it's meta, and it's self-aware, and it's beautiful, and it's the culmination of lots and lots of Kevin Smith glory. I am such a fan of that moment in that movie. So check it out. Check out his audio commentary. I love the fact that we live in a level of pop culture time where Watchmen is able to be spoofed. I also love that all of these actors played the characters-ish and basically did a PSA about washing your hands. It's a weird time. This COVID-19 thing has made us all a little crazy, and I love that they're using this opportunity to talk about who washes the Watchmen. That's just so inspired. It's on Damon Lindelof's Instagram. It is so funny. Also, wash your hands. Another thing I'm loving that pop culture is doing is it's giving us a town hall for kids. Nickelodeon is doing a kids town hall. That's so cool, man. I have so much respect for that. I think it's really rad that Nickelodeon they're having Kristen Bell host it, who is a mom, and her and Dax Shepard are one of the most adorable couples ever. Her doing that for kids is just, it's really good. I'm really happy. I can't imagine what it'd be like to be a kid right now, not knowing what was going on. Like, 4 weeks ago, you were able to go to your friend's house. Why can't I go now? I was just in school. Why are we out? I'm stuck at home with you. I can't imagine, like, I'm having a hard time as an adult, and I'm cognizantly aware-ish of what's going on. I can't imagine being a kid going through all this madness. So I think it's really cool that Nickelodeon, being a flagship network for kids, is stepping up and doing something to kind of make lives of parents at least a little easier, because man, oh man, I can't imagine. So I'm not sure when that is, but Kristen Bell is hosting. I think it's really rad of them. I'm very curious to check it out. So a lot of these big companies are stepping up in really interesting ways and really cool ways, so do support that. I think it's really rad. I finally got my internet back, guys. Oh my goodness, I'm excited. I've been vamping without my notes for the last 19 minutes. Let's see what I had written down, because I am hopeful that I covered as much as I could. Oh, what was this Iron Man 3 Thor 2 debate on Twitter? Iron Man 3 is incredible. I like Thor Dark World, but we can all agree it's on the lower side of the Marvel spectrum. Iron Man 3 matured the MCU. It is dealing with PTSD in a very real way. It deals with anxiety attacks in a way that feels possibly grounded and real. It evolves Tony Stark, which evolves the MCU. It is well shot. I don't like moments, like there are moments like Killian, and obviously Ike Perlmutter's decision not to let Rebecca Ferguson be the villain is foolish, but overall, like, it is a good film. So people saying it's the worst Marvel film, I did not understand that debate. That was a big Twitter thing this week, and I completely disagree. I am using Streamlabs right now. Calm down, Rich. I will jump on StreamYard next time, because this is it's just dropping in and out, and it's a whole thing. But it's because I'm on LTE. My Wi-Fi's down inexplicably. I cannot win with the internet this year, man. I'm telling you. Let's see. I also wanted to talk about, we also got this week announcement that the Olympics are holding off till 2021. That's why I think San Diego Comic-Con, like, if the Olympics aren't going forward, I doubt San Diego Comic-Con will, but time will tell. They pushed it a year. Can you imagine training for the Olympics, like, your whole life and then them getting delayed? Any of us that are complaining about our little inconveniences, think about, one, the obvious, people that are sick, people that are dying, people that have family that are dying, all of the obvious, but even the minutia. Think about people at the grocery store risking everything. Think about people that have trained to be athletes to go to the Olympics, and the Olympics is no longer an option. Like, that is huge and heartbreaking. So just mind the self-awareness of this whole thing, because I've been having a hard time. I've been going insane. I've been angry. I've been struggling. But perspective's a hell of a thing. This week we also got Ryan Reynolds was announced as being attached to Dragon's Lair. That's perfect casting. I'm very excited about that. Lock and Key officially got a season 2. We're getting a Lock and Key season 2. I've not watched season 1 yet, but no time like the present. I really want to. I'm a fan of Joe Hill. I'm a fan of the comic. I'm going to be checking it out. Stargirl has pushed its release date to May 19th. That is the CW and DC Unlimited show. It is a Jeff Johns passion project. It has been pushed, but I'm really excited to check it out. One of my friends, Chris Baker's on it. He's one of the bad guys, so I'm really curious. Also, the CW announced some return dates. There is no return date set for Supernatural yet, but we did get Flash and all those seasons renewing and coming back in April. So those are able to come forward. It was also the 15th anniversary of The Office this week, which is very, very exciting. I didn't discover The Office till last year, and I love that I found it when I did. John Krasinski recently did a Good Stuff News, a GSN network, where he's just saying the good news, and that's very similar to what I try to do, so I was very happy to see Jim / action guy John Krasinski doing all this. He's still my Reed Richards, I hope he is. Doing this Good Stuff News. I think it's really rad. It's really important to have positivity in the space right now. It's so vital. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Check out GSN. Check out John Krasinski's new thing on YouTube. It is a really, it's needed right now. It's really cool. And speaking of needed right now, Justice League Mortal. George Miller made a entire spec, started getting in deep into pre-production, almost was about to shoot a Justice League movie. That didn't work out. And then we, of course, got Mad Max Fury Road, which is insane. So I want to know what Justice League Mortal could have been. Armie Hammer was Batman. A lot of cool opportunity there. The documentary is back in motion, so hopefully things get to actually move forward so we can see some about Justice League Mortal. I'm seeing in the live chat people are having trouble with the sync, so I'm just going to cover comics I recommend from last week, and I'm going to wrap this up. It's going to be a short episode because I don't know what's happening with the internet, but I appreciate you guys chiming in. I just don't want to miss a week. I want to be consistent with you guys, so Tuesdays at 2 is when I want to try to be here for you. My internet disagreed, but I wanted to be here. So, my recommendations for last week's comics, March 25th's books. I recommend Basket Full of Heads 6, Batman Curse the White Knight number 8, Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler, Hellions number 1, Immortal Hulk 33. We got John Constantine Hellblazer number 5, which is crazy, Jessica Jones Blind Spot number 6, Killlock number 4, Marvel Snapshot Fantastic 4, Punisher Soviet 6, Sex Criminals 28, X-Men 9, X-Men Fantastic Four 3, and I would say your homework, if you want to read some new stuff on the morrow that you might not have read, Why the Last Man, Volumes 1 and 2, and Animal Man 1 through 26, Grant Morrison's Animal Man. I'm going to be talking about those 2 books next week, and since my internet's being choppy, I'm going to talk about these books when you can actually hear me. So next week, I will cover the last week of March, because there's no new comics next week, and I will hopefully have better internet and all that jazz. Everyone, thank you for your patience. I'm glad we have this Koi Pond community. I really appreciate you. You guys are my only like contact with the world is Zoom calls and you guys. So I'm gonna try to get the internet sorted because I'm paying way too much for it not to work. But until next week, until the internet works, stay sane. Thank you so much. And as always, thank you comic books for existing. I'll talk to you guys really soon. You're the best. Be safe. Well, 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 if it isn't a post-credit scene because the internet hates me. Hi. What else do we want to talk about in this little post-credit scene? Recommendation. If you live in a city, don't go hiking where everyone does because that is how this is spreading. If you live in a city, check out sites you will literally never see again at a safe distance. I have been enjoying urban exploring while we look like we're in an apocalypse. These visuals are like nothing you'll ever experience again. It's like a movie. I've been enjoying. I ran Sunset Boulevard and it was empty, and that was the most surreal sight. I'm going to try to go to the beach. I know the beach itself is closed, and I'm going to be very safe, and I'm going to be very cautious, but I think it's important to stay sane by doing unique experiences, and there's nothing more unique than a completely closed down city. So if you can do it safely, if you can keep 6 feet from everyone, if you can be mindful of the rules, go live your life. Get outside. I think the sun is sanity right now with all this quarantine. So let me know what adventures you get on while this is all going down. And that is your post-credit scene. I'll talk to you guys soon. I appreciate you.